Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into a story of trust, betrayal, and a really timeless lesson on power. So, let me ask you something. Who would you trust more with your life? A loyal friend or a defeated enemy? It's a tough question, right? Well, today we're tackling a super provocative law from Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. And believe me, it challenges everything we think we know about loyalty. This one question, it cuts right to the heart of power and relationships. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. That sounds, well, it sounds incredibly cynical, doesn't it? Be wary of friends. But just stay with me here. Because the argument is that in the high-stakes world of power, that very comfort you get from a friendship, that can actually become your single most dangerous liability. All right, Section 1, the problem, the treachery of friends. To really get a handle on this, we're going to look at a classic cautionary tale from the Byzantine Empire. It's a dramatic one. So picture this. It's the 9th century. You've got this young emperor, Michael III. He's totally in over his head, and his court is just crawling with conspirators who want his throne. What do you do? Well, he did what most of us would probably do. He turned to the one person he thought he could trust with his life, his best friend, a guy named Basilius. This was a man who'd once saved his life and started out as just a humble stable hand. You see, Michael didn't just promote his friend. In a way, he practically created him. He pulled Basilius out of total obscurity and shot him straight to the absolute pinnacle of power. The logic seems simple, right? A man who owes you literally everything. He could never betray you. Could he? And I mean, Michael showered this guy with everything. We're talking enormous sums of money, a title of nobility, the most powerful jobs in the government. He even married Basilius off to his own mistress. I mean, wow. And all his seasoned counselors were telling him, hey, maybe slow down. But Michael, he was totally convinced that their friendship, plus all this generosity, had created a bond that could never, ever be broken. And here is where it all starts to go wrong. Because instead of gratitude, all that generosity just fed this insatiable appetite for more. It's such a classic trap, isn't it? The familiarity breeds entitlement. The generosity doesn't spark loyalty. It sparks a burning envy. And suddenly, Basilius wasn't content with just being number 2 anymore. And look how he does it. Basilius doesn't just, turn on Michael in a fit of rage. No, this was cold, calculated. He did it systematically, piece by piece. First, he gets Michael to get rid of his own uncle, Bardas, who was actually a super competent ally. He isolates the emperor. And then, bam, with Bardas out of the picture, he moves in and seizes control of the military. And as you know, that's the ultimate key to power. Okay, and this is the moment of truth. The emperor, the guy who gave Basilius literally everything, is in a bit of a financial pinch. So he goes to his friend and asks for just a little bit of that money back. And Basilius, he just flat out refuses. Can you imagine? In that single moment, Michael must have realized the terrifying truth. He hadn't made a loyal friend. He had created a monster who was now more powerful than he was. And the end of the story? It's exactly as brutal as you'd expect. A few weeks later, that friend who was raised from the stables to the palace, he commits the ultimate betrayal. He has Michael, his best friend, his benefactor, murdered in his sleep. It is just a brutal, tragic confirmation of this law's point that putting too much trust in a friend can lead you straight to your own destruction. So if friends are that dangerous, what's the alternative? This brings us to part 2, the solution, the utility of enemies. The law proposes something that sounds totally counterintuitive. Learn how to use your enemies. All right, so for a totally different approach, let's jump over to 10th century China. We have Emperor Sung, who comes to power in the middle of this chaotic era of constant coups and civil war. But instead of just continuing that bloody cycle, he does something completely remarkable. Something that would end up securing his dynasty for more than 300 years. His strategy was wild. Totally unconventional for the time. He found the very same rivals who had been fighting to take him down, and instead of executing them, which was, standard operating procedure back then, he brought them into his government. He didn't just forgive them, he gave them actual positions of trust and power. And this move, it brilliantly gets to the core psychology of law too. Think about it. A former enemy who you've shown mercy to, they have everything to prove. They expect nothing, so they're grateful for everything. A friend, on the other hand, can easily start to feel entitled. They expect everything and can end up being grateful for very little. So, what's the crucial takeaway here? It's that gratitude is a way more reliable motivator for loyalty than just plain old familiarity. And the results? Well, they speak for themselves, don't they? Over 300 years of stability for the Song dynasty. I mean, that is such a stark, almost brutal contrast to the short, tragic reign of Michael III. His absolute trust in a friend didn't just get him killed, it led to the total collapse of his power. Okay, let's wrap this up with the verdict, friends versus enemies. We're going to put these two dynamics side by side to get a really clear-eyed view of the human nature this law is talking about. Now, looking at this comparison, it's really important to get something straight. This law is not about becoming paranoid and abandoning all your friends. That's not the point. What it is about is making a sharp, strategic observation about human psychology. It's about recognizing that the dynamics are just different when power enters the equation. Which brings us to a final and maybe more profound way to think about all this. It comes from a guy who is an absolute master at managing rivals, Abraham Lincoln. He completely reframes the whole idea, right? He turns what sounds like a cynical tactic into a really powerful tool for building strength through reconciliation. So it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Maybe the ultimate act of power isn't just about crushing a rival. Maybe, as this law suggests, it's about transforming them, turning a dangerous enemy into your most devoted ally, destroying them not by wiping them out, but by making them your friend. And that's a final provocative thought to leave you with from today's explainer.